What's up, guys? I had to redo this intro simply because I man, I needed a haircut when I did the intro to this video, and I just looked pretty rough. It's the middle of winter in Wisconsin when I did the intro, and man, it looked brutal, man. We looked cold. We were in a garage with no heat. I'll just be honest with you. I'd rather redo this, but basically you're gonna see at the start of this video that I am looking to repair my old spool pump. The connector piece, which they call the valve body, had broke, right? So I had reached out to Spool. Spool said that they could not fix it. They offered me, I believe it was a 5 or 10% discount code on a new pump. They did ask me if the pump was bought secondhand. I said yes, it was. I bought it from a guy I know in Milwaukee, because these pumps are expensive. And yeah, they basically told me to kick rocks, and then I reached out to a few other companies, and other companies weren't willing to help me, and then XDI was. So but yeah, watch the video. If it seems to jump around a little bit, I hope this gives some context that the first part is me trying to repair the valve body on the original spool pump and reinstalling that spool pump. And then from there on out, it's going to be me installing the XDI pump and kind of elaborating on a few things. And then I will also do like a scan over of my engine bay. And then we'll do like a wrap up of the video, just kind of stating what's going on and how my experience has been, and what I honestly think of XDI, spool, and what you should do. So, and also the future of this channel, which this is going to be like my first official YouTube channel, which is super cool. It's something I've always wanted to do and been a little scared of it, but now I kind of realize there's nothing to be scared of. So I hope you like the video. Let's go. He said I closed her, dude. All right, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Again, my garage is a little messy. Really what I'm doing is I'm showing you how to replace the actual, I believe this is called the valve body on these. So here, this is what XDI sent me. They always send nice stickers. Yes, I did open it. I didn't think about making a video prior. They sent me a sticker of one of their fuel pumps, a little XDI logo for the car, some more stuff like that. And then there is a little candy they sent me. I ate the first one already. I had to try it, so. This is the valve body that they sent me. Now, with this, it is kind of a tricky thing. He sent me instructions over email, so there may be times where I kind of pause or stop to figure out stuff. I am gonna loosen up this valve body right here. It's what he recommended, and then essentially use like a pry bar or a shim or a flathead to slowly pry this off without leaving any of the O-rings on. You'll see that there's 2 O-rings right here, right? And well, it looks like possibly 3 O-rings right there. And he said to be careful to make sure that those aren't left behind. We can reuse these Allen head screws or bolts, and then really what I'm going to do is just start trying to pry it off. I got to find a small screwdriver. So yeah, I'm going to start with this little guy. Oh yeah, that's going to come off real easy. I don't really understand why Spool was against me doing anything like this. This is probably gonna be like, I don't want to curse myself, but a 20-minute job, It always ends up being longer, right? So that's what you want to see, is essentially there's 1, 2, and then 3. This one's almost like a washer, this white one, but the other 2 are just O-rings. I'm gonna set that right here. You can see that the connector just snapped off. That's totally my fault. I understand that. Ooh, I didn't think about what orientation. Was it like this? Here, I have pictures. One moment.
Hopefully all presents.
Alright, so now that you can see, I have cleaned this off. I figured out the orientation. Basically, you want it to be diagonal to this QR code, at least on these spool pumps. So, and then I'm going to slowly work this down. Alright, and look at that. It's basically replaced. Literally, same thing, right? Same connector. I've already plugged it in. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some orange thread locker, some high strength removable, and just smear it on the first few threads of this, and then boom, it's replaced. I just think that's crazy that spool wouldn't help me do that. Well, the fun part's gonna be bending the fuel line. That's actually the hardest part. If you have a vise, it makes it a lot easier. I didn't figure that out till I had a vise. Just gonna wanna smear some of this on here. Nice part about having this Permatex here is that really you don't need too much, right? So I have about half the threads covered. And typically what you want to do is you can take a finger, rub it around, right? Get that all worked out through there. Thread 1, and these are going to be tightened down evenly. So I will go through and do that. So boom, right? So do about half. Nothing that's going to overdo it. Do about half of them. Spread it around. Wipe that. You know, the reason I'm doing this on a microfiber as well is so that hopefully there's not any contaminants that are going to be getting stuck in this pump. That would suck. I did just do injectors on my 340, and Robbie here actually owns a 540, so this is a good learning experience for him in the future. His is a lot louder than mine though. Yeah, it's a pretty badass car. So tight. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a crank with the right angle here. Boom, tight. Don't want to over tighten these. I would say probably about 15 inch-pounds of torque. Yeah, so it's repaired smoothly, and there was nothing wrong with this pump. This pump was running great until that happened. So yeah, I mean that bracket that I have from Spool. Basically, what I was saying though is this bolt right here, it broke. The head snapped off, and basically this was just held in by this little bit. I'm surprised it didn't throw a check engine light. I'm surprised that my cams aren't damaged. I looked at them, and I'm just really happy that the car is okay. I will say that this has been through its better days, but at the end of the day, there should not be any kind of issues with that at all. So, and I'm hoping that if this partnership with XDI keeps happening, essentially I can show you guys stuff on like Robbie's car. Or, I have a friend Brad. He has a B58, and I have a buddy with an N55. Like, you know, if they make stuff for all these cars, at the end of the day, I have the power to make content for all of them. And being a content creator is something I've always kind of dreamed about, not to sound cheesy, but it's the truth. So this is installed back in the spool pump. The line that's coming off of it is connected to ethanol sensor and all. Those wires aren't connected in, but just about to flash it, and then just go for a few rips and everything, and then this upcoming Sunday we're gonna be switching stuff out for the XDI pump, hopefully. So yep. So hopefully coming up on a road here down in Mexico, you know, like Osaka area, Oaxaca. There's a lot. I think this will be a good area right here. Alright, 3, 2, 1. installing today is going to be an XDI pump. So, what they sent me is a really nice package, right? So, this is a comparable XDI pump, and I want to verify what I'm saying before I tell you. I think it is an Evo though. They send you some fuel line, right? I'm running an ethanol sensor, so I had to make just a very, very short run for myself to make that ethanol sensor work. But they send you some fittings, they send you the fuel line, so that you can connect everything and it will look basically stock, right? They also send you some nice hardware, right? And then the actual creme de la creme, the pump, right? Now, I had gotten this pump and they had said that there was an update that they needed to make to it, so I sent it back. And then every time that I've gotten it, it has been tested. It smells like fuel. You can tell that they care about what they're doing. A nice little advantage about the XDI pump over the spool pump, what you'll notice is that it actually has an AN fitting on the end instead of being like a little like quick connect fitting. I like this better. It's more robust, less likely to blow off a fuel line, and also you can have some tighter bends, and you know it's really nice. It's gonna look way better than the spool does in my opinion. Alright, so for this job it's gonna be pretty easy. It's definitely not like a beginner thing, but I would say it's more of like an intermediate or a moderate challenge level. You're gonna need a 10 mil, right? You're gonna need to disconnect the battery. Usually what I do is I disconnect my battery otherwise an hour before or at the start of me working on it so that you don't have as much fuel pressure. There will always be a little bit of fuel spillage when you disconnect stuff, and you'll see that as we get into the video. But the big thing is you don't want it spraying while you're working on it. You know, the lines are disconnected and it sprays in your eye or something. So you're also going to need a 17. This is for disconnecting the hard line that goes to the pump. So you definitely want to make sure that you're using a open-ended wrench. This is probably the best thing that you're going to be able to use. You can't use a socket. You can't use closed-ended. You can use like a box end on this, but again, use what you got. Everybody's basically got one of these, and if you don't, add it to your tool set. Super simple. Next, shop towels or rags. Like I said, fuel going to be dripping. Depending on how soon you're doing this and how soon after driving. If you look down here, right, you got your turbo right there. There's a little heat shield, but this fuel line right here, right, you might want to turn up the ISO a little bit, hun, but this hard line right here, it drips, right? So once you disconnect this drips. Once you disconnect this drips a little bit, and once you disconnect this drips a little bit. So you want to catch as much of that as possible, and keep it from getting to the hot areas. I know that having something like a piece of paper towel or something like that, right, is probably not much better, but it is going to save you from at least dripping on the turbo and, you know, breathing in those fumes, right? All right, so most cars from BMW, their battery is going to be in the trunk. Everyone that I've ran into, 5 Series I know is under here, right? And then 3 Series and 4 Series, I believe, are all under here as well. On the right side, there's like a little box you take out, right? What you're going to want to do, this is a 10 mil right here. You're going to want to disconnect this, right? So disconnect that and make sure it's not touching anything that could be considered a full circuit. All right, so tearing down the engine bay, pretty simple. There's a lot of cowling that BMW provides on these cars. Usually there's an engine cover. I took that off before starting filming, so the engine cover you just prime off. It's super simple. You just pull it. It's got these little nubs that it clicks into. And then back here, there's these little, they're like clips, but they're 10 mils. So you twist them like, I think it's about 1/4 of a turn, if even that, and then they're loose, right? And then once they're loose, you can just pull this bad boy right up. Very simple. Set that aside, and then we're gonna go to the other side and do the exact same thing. All right, and you can always tell where they go. I mean, you can't really get them mixed up. If you get them mixed up, I'd be impressed. I also did pry out this little plug from where the strut bar connects, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And then you're gonna pry these up. Mine are a lot easier than yours probably will be if this is your first time going into your engine bay. Right? super easy, right? They'll have little clips. Because of weight reduction, you know, have removed those clips, or I've lost them, whatever. That pulls off, super simple. Factory, there will be a wire tucked in here. I've never seen a need for it, really. I get that it's to keep heat away, but they're probably already using a line that'll keep heat away or keep it from melting or anything, so I don't really care. And then down in each side here, you're gonna notice that there's these little plastic covers, right? There are bolts here and a few places over here that you're gonna have to take off in order to remove these plastic covers, right? Over here, I've got 3 bolts, and over there I've got 3 bolts, right? So just a 10 mil, that's most of the tear down for the engine bay, right? Just should get it to the point where you can spin it with your fingers, pull it out, and then I always set it near where it's supposed to be. So this is loose on this side. And then I'm going to remove these 2 bolts that I still have over here. Again, I've lost a few bolts over the years, but this stuff's not super duper important, right? It's not a huge deal. It's just a nice thing to keep and track down, but if you don't have them, I mean, who really cares? This one's kind of annoying. I've had to use extensions in the past to get this, but with my icon sockets, I mean, it's been great. It's been easy to get to these, but I know I did have some Husky sockets that didn't get to it. Now what we're gonna do, I am gonna pull out, I don't know where my impact socket set is right now. Alright, so yeah, 5/8 here, 17 up there. Should be pretty simple. Oops, that's the wrong wrench. And then you're just gonna get that loose. And again, I keep these near where I can find them, just because if I set them anywhere else, I will lose them. And I take off each side together, because then it relieves some tension. 17 now. And then now you have everything disconnected. Really, you're getting down to the engine. I did loosen the strut bar like support plastic before taking this out. It doesn't really matter. I do it this way, but some people may do it the reverse. I've never had an issue. When I put it back together though, I do tighten down the plastic first. I will say that. Because I don't want the strut bar when I tighten it to crush anything. Alright, so now we're down to the nitty gritty. You're going to start putting shop towels down. Alright? So you're going to want to put shop towels. Well, you want to disconnect these coils as well, because these can be a pain. So coil 1, I can use my fingernails, right, to get it to pull out. Sometimes you do have to use a screwdriver, which it looks like I'll have to. Right, and then you just get it in between where the connection is and the coil and just twist. It'll come out. It's not a big deal. You can also use like a pry bar or a trim tool. It's pretty simple stuff, but usually I don't have to. And then you're going to be taking the shop towel and you're going to be sticking it under your stuff, right? So you're going to be sticking it under these hard lines. If you're doing a fuel line upgrade like I am, right? Which you basically need to with this, but again, this can be used for basically any pump. Down here, this connection. Now, this is janky. This is what I got when I got my spool kit. Again, it was second hand and I just never really, I never really futzed with it. I should have, because honestly, I mean, I'm surprised this solution lasted as long as it did, but you know, we're still rolling with it. So now I'm just gonna start loosening this hard line, right? And the way you wanna do this is you wanna take some pressure off of it, right? So this is kind of a a little bit of a game, right? So I do each of them about a quarter to a half of a turn to start. See, you'll see it spray out some fuel like that out of all of them. It's normal, right? You just got to keep working it, and once you start loosening them, right, you'll start seeing more fuel pour out. Again, you don't want anywhere to have a ton of fuel. It's not something that you want to see like Niagara Falls or a freaking geyser. Oh, see, like that. That's what you don't want. So you just start loosening, slowly but surely, and it lets air out, it lets fuel out slowly, right? And as it does that, you're gonna start being able to turn this further, right? And so you'll notice that as I keep going, I'm able to turn these a little bit further. There's allowed more air in the system, right? Not a big deal. We're basically done here. It sprayed out its last little thing, I'm pretty sure. This is the last one that's kind of tight. Right? And just keep working back. See where we're at. Also, the thing that sucks about the spool kit is bending this hard line, to be honest with you. Bending the hard line, and they did send me an extra hard line for the XDI. That hard line bend was way easier, in my personal opinion. Like, I don't have to tighten stuff down to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, the spool pump's gonna pull off the block or anything, which that's how this all started. The spool pump, like, it broke. Like, the connector, well, first of all, the bolts that came with it, they broke, right? Which they may be torque to yield bolts, and that's something that I'm unaware of to this day because Spool really didn't tell me much. But then the connector, when I was trying to remove it, I basically had to break the connector to get the spool pump off. Like, it was really dumb. Like it was wedged because that bolt broke. So the connector had to be broken, or I basically would have had to have taken and lifted the engine, which, I mean, yeah, $1,200 pump versus like lifting the engine. But I still have my spare TU pump, so if something bad happened, I could throw that on and, you know, take my L like a man. But yeah. All right, everything's off here. Minimal damage, right? That's what a spool bend looks like in terms of the hard line. We're gonna keep this on the side, and then I am actually gonna remove the spool pump, remove the line. Alrighty, this is the janky fuel line that we just pulled out. Again, that is something that I had to do because I had already bent my fuel line at the time that I was installing this spool pump, and didn't realize that the lines that he sent me was not gonna work. The guy that I bought it off of, which, I mean, it's Facebook Marketplace, man. I should have had better expectations. I'll just plug this back in. This is just a precaution, just in case this doesn't work. I am gonna keep my ethanol sensor with the XDI pump. That is my intention here, right? If not, you know, it is what it is. I'll have to order some more line and set that up, but that's my goal. And I'm getting to the point where I'm taking the spool off, the spool pump. So you're gonna loosen, and you're gonna keep doing this equally. Same with a TU or a stock Gen 1 pump. And then eventually you can get it to the point where you can hand loosen. Again, you don't want this like crooked too much while you're taking it out. And as you go, you'll notice that it relieves pressure a little bit. Again, you don't want to go too quick. Boom, all the way relieved. Whew, she's hot. Alrighty. And you just want to pull this out. And this is the spool pump. This is a FX150, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, that or a 180. Regardless. And then these are the 50 mil bolts that they send with it. I'm gonna set this to the side. Somewhere where it's not gonna fall tubes, right? And then that's the spool bracket right there. That is just gonna bolt up to where your stock pump bolts up to, right? So a lot of these pumps are based off the LT pumps from Chevy or GM, whatever you want to say. So a lot of the times it is finagling them to fit. From what I understand, XDI makes their pumps in-house, tests them in-house, and does basically everything you need for stock fueling upgrades on a B58 in-house. They do injectors, which I've heard are great, which, you know, hopefully if they extend their hand and say, hey, we want to do a partnership for a longer amount of time, maybe I can throw those in here, or my other car. My other car's got a pure 800 on it. This bracket is really warm. 1 second here. Yeah, grab it with a fuel rag. Real smart, right? And then boom, that's taken off. Let's set this over here as well. Okay, perfect. We're down in the nitty gritty. So essentially, I'm gonna do the reverse for installing the XDI pump. I do want you guys to take a look at this with me though, because obviously we're gonna have to install the pump. Right? So the pump may come with a bracket, right? Kind of like this. This bracket, you just twist and pull, and it should be a tight fit. That's good, right? It just pulls off like that. Right? Now you're like, how do I know which way to put the bracket? XDI's already thought about that. It doesn't matter. With the spool pump, it did. But if you look, there are 4 different holes here, right? So whatever way you mount this bracket, it is going to work. And it's awesome. So I'm going to work on putting that bracket on, and then we'll put the pump on. You're going to notice if you have the XDI pump or the XDI setup, they're going to send you a few different bolts here, or Allen head bolts, right? So there's like some in-between lengths, right? You're going to go with the shortest length for the mount, right? And that'll still get you enough clamping force, right? It'll sit flat, right? And then those longer bolts, so the ones with the washers here, these are going to be for the pump, which we'll get to in a little bit. The other ones, I think those are just supplementary, just in case. But these are the ones that are most similar to the spool, right? So in terms of thickness and stuff, yes, this plate is a little bit thicker, but they have recesses for the hex head bolts to go down, right? So I'll just put them in. They do have a capture insert in here, so you can twist them, right? So they work just like if you were like screwing into the block or whatever, right? I think I'm fully tight there, right? Then you're gonna do it on this side. And then, what I do is I'm going to line this up with the hole here. Right? Put both of those bolts in their respective mounting point. I'm going to screw one side in just a little, right? So there's that one side. I'm going to screw in the other side, right? And then now we're working into the actual head of the engine, right? So we need to be careful. We don't want to over tighten these. We don't want to strip these bolts. Right, you're gonna have a hell of a nightmare doing this if you do that, right? So I do this just to about finger tight, right? So right about there. It's putting a little bit of pressure back on my fingers, but now it's mounted, right? It's not going anywhere. I mean, you can shake the whole engine, it ain't doing nothing, right? So now what I do is I put a little bit of pressure, right, when attaching these bolts, right? So I need my lovely assistant to back up, right? When you put a little bit of pressure, right, you get one of those bolts started. Just enough, right? But you get it started so that it's in there, okay? You're gonna give it a little pressure again. All right, so I gave it a little bit of pressure, and now I can start tightening each side down just slightly, right? So half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, right? And we're just slowly working it in, right? And you'll notice that it becomes flat with this plate as you go, right? And doing just these half turns is gonna help compress that spring, but also not score your camshaft, right? So with like Kelford cams and stuff like that, you can actually get these pumps to flow a little bit more. I think it's about 30 or 60%. I know it's one of those too, but essentially these pumps are awesome, right? So you can see it starting to tighten up, flush up, and everything like that. And I just go until I can't tighten anymore, right? I go until it starts fighting me. You don't need a ton of pressure here. It's just enough pressure to hold the fuel pump in, right? Right, and we're getting there. That's quarter of a turn, and this one will maybe take a quarter of a turn, and this one will maybe take a quarter of a turn. But then it was like not even a quarter of a turn. Boom. That's all, right? So now it's solid on the block. It's mounted. You're gonna take off these yellow caps once you start mounting the actual hose, right? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull out the hard line that I had previously bent when I first got this. So I think that's why XDI is trying to get it so that you guys don't have to bend it. Which I know Dorch does, but Dorch's line is bent really weird. Like it's all over the place. Right? Yeah, like look at that. That is how I had it when I sent it back to them. Right? You're gonna slowly tighten everything. Right? So you're gonna slowly tighten these lines on here. Sometimes you gotta do a little bit of finagling. So, little tip of the trade, start with this one, right? Then kind of pull this one back, slide it in there, and then start tightening this one. This one and this one are the hardest part. This one right here typically kind of falls into place, right? This one further away from the pump you can bend quite easily, which is good. That's good. Bend it to your will and kind of figure it out from there. The most important mounting is this right here on the pump, right? Reason being is they use a copper insert, right? So it's like a crush insert. So once you start tightening this, you got to make sure that it's going in the right area. I'm gonna reconnect an extender for the XDI pump. Now the extender for this looks the same as the spool pump. I'm not gonna lie to you. Only difference is this yellow, right? But again, I'm sure that they use very similar setups, right? So we're just gonna plug this in back here, right? Should slide on easy. I'm gonna plug this in, boom. Right, I'm using AN fuel fittings. That's the best. Honestly, there's this brand on Amazon. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Good Evil or something. Dude, they make some great stuff. It's not as expensive as like getting it from like Precision Raceworks, and it's, I mean, yeah, it may be a Chinese-made company, but it's freaking awesome. All right, so that's one end on. I'm going to attach this to the yellow side of the fuel pump, the side that has nothing on it yet. It should basically connect really easily. I am going to have to come back with a wrench and do this, but for right now, that's what it's looking like. All right, and then we're gonna go on this bad boy here. All right, I'm gonna reconnect the battery. I'm gonna see if there's any fuel leak. I do understand that this fuel line is pretty long. I just didn't necessarily plan for it. This is my ethanol connector or content sensor. There's the original hard line from the actual car over here. That's the low pressure side. And then this is the line that they send you from XDI. This is flexible. It should be able to be tucked. I'm not really worried about it. We're gonna see if it leaks first. You have to go into MHD, or I believe BM3 also has settings for it. I don't know about MG Flasher, but you have to go into MHD and change your tune to the XDI pump stage 1 or 2. So you're gonna notice it primes the fuel pump, right? Now, the reason that she's checking that area is that has always been our problem spot for any fuel pump we've installed. Right? No leaks? Okay, now we're going to try and start it. Now, the engine bay not fully put back together, that's fine. You want to check it before it is fully put back together, because at the end of the day, taking this shit all apart, not fun.
I am looking. Not there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nope.
Perfect. I'm gonna start it up now.
Oh, I think we're leaking.
Found a leak. Tighten this bad boy up a little bit. We're gonna see if it leaks again. So it is the next day after I bent that line to send back to XDI, and it's, you know, not only has the pump been running well, and I've had it on for, it's got to be like a month. The pump runs well. I've taken a few logs. I mean, the car responded well to it, and just an OTS map from MHD, you know, I can tell that there's a little bit of pickup over the spool one. Now, with talking with XDI and everything, I did confirm that all of their stuff is made in-house. They may have some secret stuff coming, you know, in the next year or so, but I can't say much more than Stanadyne. Now, with that being said, they are telling me that they, you know, would like to see my build go further with their product, which is awesome. Now, when I had reached out to them originally, I was just trying to fix an issue, right? $1,200, well, $1,200 is what I paid for the spool pump, but a $1,700 pump from Spool would have been, you know, a huge expense. You know, like, yes, I own a BMW, but there's also a point of, you know, $1,600, $1,700 is a lot of money for a lot of people, right? So when you spend that kind of money with Spool or XDI or Precision Raceworks or Dorch, you want to know that you're getting the best customer service possible, and also that these are repairable. I mean, Spool told me like 3 different times, no, we cannot repair it. How about a discount code? And, you know, I'm probably going to put those emails in here just as proof, because, you know, there's a lot of fanboys for Spool, and nothing against people. I mean, you know, if they've treated people well in the past, that's great. But I reached out to XDI. I'm like, hey, this is broken. Can I get a fix for this versus having to order a new pump? You know, is there any way you guys can help? And, you know, a lot of places might have been like, oh, no, you have to buy a new pump. Maybe I'll give you a better discount code than like what Spool's giving you or whatever. No, they're like, yes, I can send you that. I'll actually send you instructions on how to change that. I sent you the Loctite on how to do it as well. And, you know, if you need anything in the future, please reach out, with like almost like a winky face. It was like it was like a DM almost. Like they're trying to hit on me, man. Like, but like in a nice way, you know, like in the car world. It ain't like no creepy shit. But, but no, so I put that on, and, you know, I got to talking to the guys over at Spool. The guy's name is Mike, that I was talking to, and, you know, he's like, well, what if I make you this deal? You send us your Spool pump after you log it, right? And then I'll send you our pump. You log it, and then go through a video or a Facebook or whatever and just show the data, right? This is an unbiased review. Yes. Did they give me free products? Yes, essentially. I paid $200, but they essentially supplied me free products, which is great. And, you know, if it was a terrible product, I probably wouldn't be doing this review, or I'd be like, no, I want my Spool pump back. But it turned out to be a great product. I'm blown away with not only their customer service, but also the quality of like their machining work and stuff like that. And the fact that these pumps aren't some janky LT4 or LT1 pump that's had to been modified to fit on a BMW. Like, that's not custom. That's just using like, that's like saying that you got a fuel pump from, you know, a Toyota 4Runner and you put it in your Hellcat, or you vice versa, right? That's cool and all, but that's not what it's meant for. When the thing is built from the ground up for your car, that there's less chance of it failing, you know? It's a better quality. They put time, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears into it, and honestly, that earns my money. You know, yes, these pumps are close to $2,000. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if you're gonna spend your money, which I work in the customer care business, right? Which I'm trying not to show my logo just because, like, separate life from work, you know, and this is life, that's work, right? Hopefully this becomes work at some point, but you're spending $2,000. That's a lot of money. If you're spending $2,000, you better get something that's damn good. And I say that XDI does a great job. And maybe getting some injectors soon, maybe going a little bit bigger turbo on my car. Or maybe we'll kit out the 440 and go from there. Just talking with them, they've been awesome. And I mean, who would have thought that I would have been doing a YouTube video with, you know, one of the bigger name companies out there just off of an email, right? So I'm blessed in that regard. Y'all can believe me or not believe me, but I'll tell you that this pump's the real deal, and I can tell there's better pickup. You also see the logs listed below. I'm gonna do that through Data's app. So, yeah.